Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video, and today we'll be taking a look at how good ARLECCHINO and FURINA are together in a team. Now, a lot of people say that these two have anti-synergy because ARLECCHINO can only heal herself and FURINA will put you down to half HP, so your ARLECCHINO will be very fragile. But I wanted to test it out for myself, see if the cons are worth the pros, whether it's a good high risk, high reward team. And yeah, basically what we're going to be doing is putting this team through both halves of the Abyss, and whilst we do that, I will be giving you my thoughts on how good this team is and whether there are any alternatives. So yeah, this will be the variant we will be going with, and with that being said, let's just jump straight into it. Alright, and here we are in the first chamber. We will be starting off with the EM buff, since it will be very useful for our vape damage. Now, like normal, what we're going to do here is we're just going to run back a little bit, let the blue guy come towards us to cancel out this dash, so these guys should be grouped together better into our rotation. Just hopefully we don't get hit by cryo, and okay, hopefully by ulting here we managed... Yeah, okay, we did manage to avoid a big cryo hit, and now we can just do big damage. Let's see, we're hitting... Okay, I only saw max 50k. Ooh, I think... Was that 130k? Are we hitting over 100k here, or am I crazy? I think we saw a few 100k, although I might be wrong. Now, obviously, the good thing here about having Fav on our xingqiu and our FURINA is the fact that we can get our ult much easier on our ARLECCHINO to make sure we heal, since obviously this is our only source of healing, and FURINA will be constantly draining our HP to half. But yeah, we've done pretty well here. That, you know, I'm pretty sure we've hit some hits over 100k, although we'll have to see on the other chambers. But we did manage to clear this in 52 seconds, so under a minute. So yeah, as you can see, we're off to a very strong start, and it's time for the second chamber. Alright, and second chamber, once again we will be taking the EM buff, very useful for us luckily. Now we are just going to heal up here on our ARLECCHINO because once again we don't want our FURINA draining our HP. I'd say this is probably the main concern of people playing FURINA with ARLECCHINO. Obviously, you know, FURINA's buff is very useful for ARLECCHINO, but the problem is obviously, you know, ARLECCHINO can only heal herself, so you're basically permanently at half HP, so you're playing with basically 12 HP. You can't run a shielder because FURINA's solo Hydra is kind of troll, and you need a healer to maximize FURINA's buff, so, you know, these teams are very fragile. I'd say C1 isn't necessary for these teams, but C1's definitely very useful for these teams so you don't get knocked back a lot. I will say one thing is I would definitely run xingqiu over Yelan in a double Hydra team with FURINA, mostly just because, you know, you want the damage reduction from xingqiu. It is very useful, but as you can see, it's very much a high risk, high reward team because once again, we have been able to clear a chamber in a minute. So yeah, this team is definitely powerful. It's just a matter of, you know, how confident you are in your ability to dodge and not die, and if you're comfortable with retrying. So yeah, with that being said, it's onto the third and final chamber for the first half. Alright, and we are halfway through the video already. We will be taking yet another useful buff, so we got 2 EM and 1 attack buff. You know, no crit buffs, but honestly this is good either way. And you know, I'm just curious to see how much damage we'll be able to do now with all our buffed up damage. Obviously we do only have like 50 crit, but you know what, it should be fine. I have faith in our ARLECCHINO's damage. Let's see, we see around 60k there, 52. I would be expecting a little bit more. Okay, we do get 80k there, which is nice. I feel like we probably could hit higher than 80k, but, you know, nothing too amazing. Once again, we will go through our ARLECCHINO's build at the end of the video, but, you know, it's nothing amazing, so I'm sure many people can improve upon this. But, yeah, I mean, looking at the damage, if I'm being honest, I feel like it would just be a bit more useful to run ARLECCHINO in, like, a Bennett team with, like, Kazo, or honestly, even Zhongli as a shielder for comfort. The FURINA teams really rely on you being able to dodge, you know, survive, being stuck constantly at basically half HP. Even lower if you get hit, like, we're sitting around 8k HP on our ARLECCHINO right now, so, you know, yeah, it's not amazing survivability-wise. Obviously, it's not a massive problem. Like I said, C1 helps immensely. If you have any constellations on either FURINA or ARLECCHINO, this team does get better, but I feel like there are just better alternatives, which I will talk about a little bit more at the end of the video and also when we do the second half. But once again, we have basically cleared the first half. We'll be clearing this in under 90 seconds. So, you know, we cleared every chamber. You know, we cleared the first two in 60 seconds and this one in just under 90 seconds. So, yeah, pretty solid clears if I say so myself. Now let's see how she does on the second half. Alright, and here we are now in the second half. Now, the second half is a little bit more AoE centered, so I feel like we can see a few more weaknesses of this team come out. Obviously, we are just going to try to do a little bit of tech here to have these guys group up nicely for us. which they have so far, but now they've separated a little bit. They're a bit further from each other, but you know what? I'm confident in our damage. Starting off with this guy first, you know, get some 60Ks in there. We should be able to kill them basically at the same time. If not, I can just yellow it. Okay, yeah, no, they were fine. Okay, the Fatui gunners can be a bit annoying. Oh, actually, they've grouped up really nicely for us here, so that's actually really useful. Yeah, I feel like we should be fine here, honestly. Just the one thing is making sure we don't die. We're actually really low HP right now, so make sure we avoid the bubbles. Otherwise, that would be an unfortunate circumstance. We can ult if we will need to, which I will now, since I don't want to get hit by any of those attacks or retry. Like I said, this team very much reliant on you not dying. That is the key in this team, absolutely. And I would be very cautious when playing it, like I said. So, yeah, if I'm being honest, I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of this team. Like, it's a good team, don't get me wrong, but the thing is, ARLECCHINO has so many teams that she is good in. You know, Mono Pyro, Overload, even Overvape. I feel like there's just so many teams you could play her in instead of this one. Even like a Zhongli, Xingqiu, Yelan, I feel like would also be a very good team. I feel like it's just a bit unnecessary to run in with FURINA. You obviously can if you want to. I did mention this a bit on the first half. If you have any constellations on your FURINA, then maybe she would be a bit more beneficial. Or if you if you have C1 like me, that's when I feel like the FURINA team does get a bit better. But yeah, in my personal opinion, maybe at C0 I wouldn't really run this team. We'll see how we do on the other halves, but you know, when it comes to like the lack of grouping, survivability, just the damage in general, I'm not a hater, but I'm not the biggest fan either. So yeah, on to the second chamber anyway. Alright, and here we are back again on the second half. Now, we will be healing up here since, you know, we're already below half HP and, you know, don't want to die. Getting knocked back there a little bit is annoying. Okay, we did miss our Xingqiu E. Oh, I think we just missed another skill. How lovely. Yeah, we're gonna just ignore that. Do these guys have, I think, for 2 agents, right? Yeah, do they have any Pyro Res? I'm not too sure if I'm being honest. I feel like they might do. Anyway, we are just going to heal up here before the ads spawn in. Actually, we might even be able to kill this lady without having to kill the bird, which would actually be kind of useful. Oh, these guys have all grouped up for us. This is actually really good for us. Okay, we will be ignoring the fact there. Okay, we will be ignoring that as well. You know, skilling here, making sure we catch the particles. Okay, we had such a nice opportunity where they grouped up for us, but you know, it is what it is anyway. Yeah, we're only hitting about 50Ks. I see a lot more damage if I just run ARLECCHINO with Benakaza. I feel like you'd even get more benefits if you run her with like... Honestly, I'm a big fan of the Mono Pyro ARLECCHINO teams. I would say a very, very comfortable team is Bennett, Shangling, and Zhongli. Or you could also run, for example, Chevreuse with Fischl or Beidou, or even Xingqiu, Beidou, Fischl, because you get... I mean, you know, in the Zhongli team... Okay, yep, we are nearly dead. I don't want to risk that whatsoever. I mean, we will be able to take these guys' shield down in time, since we have a lot of Hydra, which does a little bit of damage to the shield, and then Pyro does quite a bit. Making sure we heal up here, because I do not want to retry this any more times, because if I'm being honest, I failed the first half a lot of times because our Ryze kept getting one-shot since Bennett kept applying Pyro to him, and he kept just getting nuked by Capellis' cryo attacks. But yeah, we just about cleared this in time, luckily, and it's almost onto the final chamber of the entire video, so I will see you guys in a second. Alright, and here we are in the final chamber up against the Baptist. Now, the one good thing about this team is the elemental coverage here is obviously quite good, since we have both a lot of Hydro, you know, strong Hydro and strong Pyro, which is very useful, of course. You know, I'm not sure how this compares damage-wise to, say, a Xingqiu, Yelan, Zhongli team. I can tell you for sure that team would be more comfortable to play. As you can see from us here being at 4k HP, but we should be fine since we can take this guy's shield down easily. But yeah, I'm not sure how that team would compare damage-wise. Although one thing I will say for sure is, you know, I just feel like there's better alternatives to this team. But once again, I mean, here's the thing. I keep saying there's better alternatives, although this team does keep doing quite well. You know, I can't complain. Although, like I said, I feel like for a lot of people, it would just be more beneficial to try other teams. Now, one thing I'm curious is how this would work up against a double Hydro Yelan team. And we're kind of melting him here. But yeah, I'm curious how this would do against a Hu Tao team. And I would love to test it, although unfortunately I don't have Yelan on this team, so I can't do a fair comparison. My Yelan's on my other account, and so is my Hu Tao, so you know, the comparison wouldn't be exactly fair. So yeah, that is a bit unfortunate, but yeah, I mean, as much as I have been trashing, well, I wouldn't say I've been trashing on this team. Okay, let me get this clear. I feel like this team is decent. Just the thing is, ARLECCHINO is so flexible that there's so many good team alternatives here that you don't need to run the risk and frustration that can sometimes come with this team. But when it comes down to it, obviously this team is completely fine. If you have FURINA and you don't have Yelan, you can do this team very well. But yeah, I will touch on that a little bit more just afterwards. We will be moving on to my final thoughts on the teams, completely unfiltered, and then also moving on to the character builds. So I will see you guys in a second once I get my thoughts together. Alright, and here we are back again outside of the Abyss. Now, I just want to start off giving my thoughts on the team, when it comes to the strengths and weaknesses. Like I mentioned, the elemental coverage on this team is pretty good. After all, it is a double hydro team. If you have 2 strong elementals on the team, the coverage is pretty decent for most chambers. I mean, it's the double hydro team, you know how they work. Vape is just a good reaction in the game. The damage is pretty decent, although, the fragility of the team is one thing that should not go unmentioned. Like I said, if you don't have C1 on ARLECCHINOs to avoid getting staggered, the team can be a bit annoying because you can get staggered a bit and then just get absolutely comboed and deleted. And this team does get better if you have constellations on FURINA. FURINA's C1 and C2 are very strong and helpful. But honestly, you can even play this team at C0 on ARLECCHINO and FURINA, although I will definitely recommend having a xingqiu on the team just to reduce the incoming damage. Although I will say this is a decent team, I still feel like there are better alternatives. Like I mentioned, a Yelan double hydro team with Zhongli is far more comfortable, and it basically has the same benefits as this team, maybe a slightly lower damage ceiling, although I'm not even entirely sure on that. But yeah, I feel like a Yelan xingqiu Zhongli team will do just as well with like minimal losses when it comes to time and way more comfort. So I would probably recommend that team for most of the player base, although, if you have a FURINA, you can play this team. Some people will point out that I am using Jean and that you can use someone like Shenyun instead. The thing is, ARLECCHINO's plunge attacks aren't that good, so if you want to play a Shenyun FURINA team, you can do it on ARLECCHINO. I mean, it's cool, her plunge attack animations are really cool, but from a meta standpoint, if you are going to do a FURINA, Shenyun, double hydro team, then I would recommend playing that with Hu Tao instead. That is a very good team that is Hu Tao's best in slot team, if I am correct. Whereas for ARLECCHINO, it's not an ideal team. If I were to play ARLECCHINO, I would either go for I mean, I wouldn't even go for a double hydro team, if I'm being honest. I would go for either a mono pyro team, because they are very comfortable with a very high damage ceiling, as well as very high team damage. Or I would go for a Chevreuse Overload team. Those would be my top 2 picks. Personally, I think those are the best teams for ARLECCHINO. There are also other teams you can do, which are slightly more complex when it comes to rotations. I know some people like doing a xingqiu solo hydro with Koza and Zhongli. That is also a very comfortable team because you have Zhongli in there. But honestly, I feel like she just has a lot of F2P friendly teams to the point where you don't need a double hydro FURINA team if you want to play it because you like the characters, or it's like the only good team you can construct for ARLECCHINO because you don't have like a Yelan or maybe a Zhongli or whatever. Then obviously you can go for it. You will be fine. You will be able to clear just fine. I overall did have a good time playing this team. Just the thing is, ARLECCHINO is so good and so flexible. I feel like there are just other teams, but this is a good team overall. Although, like I said, I would go for a Chevreuse Overload or a Monopyro because they are just honestly more accessible and easier to play, in my opinion. Or you could even go for one of the more complex teams if you're really trying to min-max her damage. Or, that's just what I would go for personally. But, yeah, that's it when it comes to my thoughts on the team and any alternatives. I've yapped enough. You already know my thoughts. I've made them abundantly clear. Just quickly, when it comes to our character builds, our ARLECCHINO, her build isn't amazing. We don't even have 60 crit rate. I would normally go for around 70 to 210. That would be my regular build. However, our artifacts are very much in their infancy because I did want to force her best in slot artifacts, and as you can see, the domain has been terrible for us when it comes to farming. I have over 1000 HP on my circlet. Please kill me. But yeah, obviously you guys all know C1. Her normal attack is level 9, so if it was level 10, she would be doing more damage, and if her artifacts were better, then she would also be doing more damage. But at the same time, if you don't have C1 or Jadewing Spear, then I feel like it kind of balances out when it comes to the normal attacks and the artifacts. So Yeah, that's it for our ARLECCHINO. Just quickly going for our xingqiu, 64 crit rate, 124 crit damage, over 200 ER on Fav, just for the extra battery. C2, unfortunately not C6. If you do want to do a single Hydro player, I would prioritize xingqiu number 1 at C6. If your xingqiu isn't C6, then I'd say it's more even between xingqiu and Yelan, although I might slightly favor xingqiu, because I still think his Hydro application is slightly faster, although I'm not entirely sure. But then Yelan will give you more buffs, so that is up to you. And then below that, I would have... I've also heard C6 Candace is actually really good, apparently. So, you know, don't take that as gospel, but that's what I've heard. And then, you know, right under I'd have like FURINA as a solo Hydro. I wouldn't recommend FURINA as a solo Hydro, but yeah, that's our xingqiu. When it comes to our FURINA, 64 crit rate, 183 crit damage, 222 ER. Don't need this much ER in a double Hydro team, but you know, I just don't like changing my build on our FURINA because we still don't have artifact loadouts yet. So yeah. And then when it comes to our Gene, just level 8 burst to make sure we get the healing, 205 ER, and some healing bonus. Viridescent for the little elemental res shred, and then obviously the... Okay, that's not supposed to be animal damage bonus, that is supposed to be attack. Pretend you did not see this. I will have to change my Gene build because I did not even realize I was wrong. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you found it insightful, be sure to drop a like, and yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed it.